To Shireen, who is with the Chief Economic Advisor. Let's cut across.
Given my cautious nature, I will simply say that I am more comfortable now that the final number, which we have given a range, 6.3 to 6.8% in real terms, I am more comfortable now in saying that we will be tending towards the upper end of this range rather than the lower end of this range, considering what's happening on the external front. So that is the extent to which I am prepared to sound more relaxed and confident at this point. But once second quarter number comes, then we will revisit the estimates.
No, we'll take that, the higher end of that band that you had laid out in the economic survey. But if we could just understand the stimulus provided by both the income tax cuts as well as the GST benefits. The Prime Minister gave a number of 2.5 lakh crore rupees when he addressed the nation yesterday. What's the estimate that you're working with? Because I'm sure that will go into the budget math as well.
No, I think his numbers are quite appropriate, taking into account both the direct and the indirect taxes. Because especially focusing on the indirect tax cut, GST 2.0, it's a combination of three components. One is the reductions in rates from, many categories going from 18 to 5 and the 12 becoming 5, etc. That is one major chunk. The second chunk is the withdrawal of the compensation cess. These two are very positive to the households. The small minus is the one where few categories where the rate goes from 28 to 40. So the final tax savings is the first two components minus the third component, and that number will be upwards of 1 lakh crore. And then if you really assume a marginal propensity to consume, as they call it, MPC in the economist jargon, which basically means depending on how much households consume, then it leads to further income growth, and so 2-3 rounds of multiplier effect, then the total impact on the economy will be even more than 2.5 lakh crores. So I think what the Honorable Prime Minister said was purely the static estimate of the tax saved for the households. But the impact on the economy can be bigger. But of course, we know that there are other uncertainties and other factors which may dilute some of this translation of the savings into aggregate demand or GDP growth, as we call it, but the total impact is of this order of magnitude between the direct tax relief and the indirect tax relief put together.
I'll come to the uncertainties that you alluded to in just a second, but I just want to continue with the GST conversation and talk about the impact on states and state finances, because many states came out and said that they were concerned about the revenue impact that they would have to face. As you look at how things are panning out, and we've just seen the CAG numbers also come in as far as state revenues are concerned, what's your own indication, considering the fact that there is no longer any compensation cess?
So, look, in fact, former RBI Governor C. Rangarajan and Mr. Shanmugam, former Finance Secretary of Tamil Nadu government, wrote an article before the GST Council met about 3 weeks ago as to how well states have done with GST. And they particularly pointed out that the producing states, which were concerned about GST impacting them adversely, actually have ended up doing much better. So that's one. The second point I would like to make is GST rate, the revenue neutral rate, which was around 15% when GST came into being, actually has been coming down even before this happened. So by last year, it was down to 11% something.
Yes.
So there's a 4%. Every time the effective revenue neutral rate or the effective GST rate came down, but the annual average collection actually kept going higher and higher. So you already have a track record where the reduction in the GST rate, effective GST rate, did not result in decline in GST revenues. But revenues were having a step-up function every year. And this happened even in 2019, before the election, sometime in February, March or April, I don't know the exact month, when the GST significant reliefs were announced, there was a concern that it would lead to a decline in revenue. But immediately after the elections, the monthly numbers picked up within no time. So these two examples, I think, give us encouragement that the volume growth will make up for the static calculation that, as the rate drops, the revenue collections will drop because the volumes will go up. And the last point I want to make is, last year I wrote a paper co-authored with the Joint Secretary in the GST Council. We both wrote saying that whenever UPI transactions they pick up, they have a very high correlation with GST revenues. And UPI transactions are growing,
record highs.
Growing at 20 to 30% per annum year on year every month. So the rise in UPI transaction is actually a very good harbinger of GST revenues continuing to rise, and with the rate cut, the volume effect will dominate. So we shouldn't be overly concerned because the track record is there. Rate reductions have led to more formalization rather than less formalization, and that means more revenues.
That means more revenues,
More
and hence,
transactions, yeah.
more transactions, and hence you believe states have little reason to be concerned
That's
at this
right.
point in time. Which brings me to the question about the government's own fiscal math. We are, of course,
Sure.
getting into the budget-making exercise. Do you believe that this will have any impact as far as the government's own fiscal math is concerned?
I think we are confident that the final number will be 4.4% of GDP, which is the gross fiscal deficit. We have had good non-tax revenue growth, and overall revenue growth is on track in comparison to last year's numbers. And we feel that the festival season will last all the way until the end of the year because of successive, the Diwali festival spilling over towards Christmas and New Year, etc. So we are confident that the fiscal math will hold up very well for the current financial year.
Okay, confident that the fiscal math is going to hold up. That's the Chief Economic Advisor in conversation with Shireen, and we'll keep getting you excerpts of that particular conversation. Well, just a quick word on the